All right, let's jump right into the wildest part of this initial 53-man reveal, because honestly, nobody saw some of this coming. First thing, the Chiefs are rolling with two quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Skylar Minshew, which means Olin and Zappi are moving on. That's straightforward in outcome, but huge in ripple effects. The QB room is locked, and now the questions are about who lands on the practice squad and who gets claimed off waivers. If you want a team that's stable under center, that's the move. But it also means fringe quarterbacks have to scramble. For running backs, there weren't massive surprises on paper. Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Brashard Smith, and Elijah Mitchell make the 53. And that led to Carson Steele being waived. Steele's a guy I'd love to see on the practice squad, but with Elijah Mitchell's spot looking a bit tenuous, this group could still shift after waivers. The Chiefs clearly wanted 4 RBs for immediate versatility, and you can see the thinking. A mixture of short yard power, receiving chops, and a backup who can handle reps if injuries hit. Now, the real eyebrow raiser. 8 wide receivers. Since 2019, the Chiefs typically carried 7 at most. This time they went 8, keeping Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Jalen Royals, Juju Smith-Schuster, Taquan Thornton, Nico Romeo, and Jason Brownlee. Why 8? A few reasons. First, there's the very real possibility of a Rice suspension, whether it's settled before the season or announced later. That looming risk forces the team to keep extra depth now rather than scramble later. Second, Hollywood Brown's dealing with foot and ankle issues, and his timeline is unclear, so they need insurance if he's limited early. Third, Jalen Royals missed practice, and Andy Reid said he's the last of 3 to return. So availability concerns stack up. Nico Romeo made the roster as the clear returner. Nobody else stood out in that role. And Jason Brownlee is a red zone 50-50 target who the staff didn't want to risk exposing to waivers. Put it all together and keeping 8 receivers starts to look less like a luxury and more like roster insurance. Quick poll for you. In the comments, vote. Was keeping 8 WRs the right call? Type yes or no, and tell me which receiver surprise made your head turn the most. If you want more breakdowns like this and daily Chiefs roster updates, hit subscribe. We're pushing to 5,000, and every sub helps this community grow. Moving from receivers to tight ends, the Chiefs kept things tight with 3 on the roster. That part wasn't shocking, but the way they handled Robert Tonyan stood out. He was waived, but since he's a vested veteran with more than 4 years in the league, he doesn't have to clear waivers. The expectation is that once Rashee Rice's suspension becomes official and a roster spot opens, Tonyan could be brought back. It's a classic roster juggling move. Stash a veteran temporarily knowing he's unlikely to get scooped, and then bring him back when the numbers allow. The wrinkle here is Jake Brinningtool being placed on injured reserve with a designation to return. That means after week 4, he's eligible to come back. And it also means the Chiefs burned one of their only 2 return designations on him. For a rookie undrafted free agent out of Clemson, that's a serious investment. This kid played over 60% of his snaps from the slot in college, and if he heals up and comes back, you could see Andy Reid experimenting with him in the offense later in the year. The Chiefs clearly think he's worth the wait, or they wouldn't have used that designation. Now to the offensive line, which is always a huge talking point because Mahomes' protection is the foundation of everything. The Chiefs kept 9 linemen, exactly as projected. The starting 5 of Josh Simmons, Kingsley Suamataia, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Jawan Taylor, with depth coming from Jalen Moore, Wanya, Morris, Mike Caliendo, and Hunter Nourzad. Nourzad, by the way, is sneaky valuable. He's a backup center who can also flex to guard and even played right tackle in college. The surprise came with some cuts that fans weren't thrilled about, especially undrafted lineman Issa Pohl, who had a strong preseason but didn't make the 53. The hope is that he clears waivers and sticks on the practice squad. Same story for C.J. Hansen. Then there's Ethan Driscoll, who landed on the reserve NFI list after appendix surgery. He could return to the roster later in the season. For now, Moore looks like the first swing tackle up, with Morris behind him. If you had to choose between bringing Tanyan back right away or giving Braining Tool a shot later this year, which way would you lean? Drop Tanyan or Jake in the comments, and don't forget to like the video if you want me to keep hammering out these roster deep dives. Now we get to the defense, and this is where things really started to catch fans off. Guard. Beginning with the defensive tackles, the Chiefs kept 4. Chris Jones, Jerry Tillery, Omar Norman Lott, and Derek Noddy, who they just traded for from the Jets over the weekend. The surprising part here was the release of veteran Mike Pennell. Pennell has been a steady rotational piece before, but this time he's out, at least for now. He posted on Instagram saying, "Life is comedy," which doesn't sound like a guy thrilled about his situation. Could he land on the practice squad or even re-sign later? Possibly, but right now his future in Kansas City is cloudy. At defensive end, the Chiefs went with 5. George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, Charles Omenihu, rookie Ashton Galata, and Malik Herring. That 5th spot, though, feels very shaky. There's still a chance the Chiefs claim someone off waivers and slide Herring to the practice squad. Remember, both Felix Anudike-Uzomah and Janarius Robinson were placed on injured reserve, so depth is thinner than usual. Herring has hung around the roster before, but he's very much a placeholder unless he proves otherwise. Linebacker was more straightforward, but still had its twist. The Chiefs kept 6. Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill, Leo Chenal, rookie Jeffrey Bosa, Jack Cochran, and the surprise, undrafted rookie Cooper McDonald. He beat out Cam Jones for that last linebacker spot thanks to strong special teams play and some flashes in preseason. That's always how the 6th linebacker earns his stripes. Not necessarily on defense, but by being a reliable special teamer. Brandon George, another linebacker many had their eye on, was placed on IR without a designation to return, which likely means his season is over after an injury settlement. Then there's the IR picture overall. Jake Braining-Tool at tight end and Nazi Johnson at corner both got the designation to return, meaning they can come back after week 4. George did not, so his year may be done. These moves change the roster math dramatically, and they explain some of the fringe players who made it for now, because the Chiefs know they'll have reinforcements mid-season. Of all these defensive surprises, Mike Pennell being cut, Malik Herring holding on to that 5th end spot, or Cooper McDonald making the team, which one shocked you the most? Leave your pick in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit subscribe so you don't miss the follow-up when the Chiefs inevitably make more moves. The linebacker room blends right into the secondary, and this is where things got even more interesting. The Chiefs kept 6 cornerbacks: Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Christian Fulton, Nick Jones, Chris Roland Wallace, and Joshua Williams. The name that jumps out here is Joshua Williams. He wasn't on many projections to make the 53, but he slid in thanks to Nazi Johnson going on injured reserve with a shoulder injury. Since Johnson has the designation to return, he could be back after week 4, which would put Williams' spot in jeopardy down the road. For now, though, Williams gets another chance to prove himself. Roland Wallace is another fascinating piece, because while he's technically listed as a corner, the Chiefs have been working him at safety and in the slot. That kind of versatility and your support is what makes this community special. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the comments where the debate always gets heated.